Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of One Full Hour of English Podcast.
Hi, Maya. It's great to be here again.
Great to have you, Ahmed. And of course, a warm welcome to all our listeners.
That's right. Whether you're at home, on your way to work, or just relaxing, we're glad you're joining us today.
In this podcast, we talk about all kinds of interesting topics, stories, real-life issues, advice, and much more.
Yes, our goal is to help you improve your English while enjoying fun and engaging discussions. So sit back, relax, and let's get started.
We will start with this topic. Why do we fail to achieve our dreams? Common mistakes and how to overcome them. Let's dive in.
We all have dreams, but many of us struggle to achieve them. Why? In this podcast, we will explore common mistakes that prevent us from reaching our goals and how to overcome them. By understanding these challenges, you can take control of your future and turn your dreams into reality.
One of the biggest reasons for failure is the lack of clear goals. Many people have vague dreams, but they don't define specific steps to reach them. To succeed, set SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Fear of failure holds us back. We hesitate to take action because we're afraid of making mistakes. But failure is a part of growth. Instead of avoiding it, learn from your mistakes and use them as stepping stones towards success.
Dreams require effort and persistence. Many people lose motivation when results don't come quickly. Stay committed by reminding yourself why you started and breaking your journey into smaller, manageable steps.
Delaying tasks leads to lost opportunities. Procrastination is a common enemy of success. Develop self-discipline, set deadlines, and create a schedule to stay productive and focused.
Your mindset plays a crucial role in your success. If you constantly tell yourself you can't do something, you will believe it. Replace negative thoughts with positive affirmations and build self-confidence.
Many people fail because they don't have the right knowledge or skills. Invest in learning, read books, take courses, and seek mentors who can guide you towards success.
Worrying about what others think can prevent you from pursuing your dreams. Understand that not everyone will support your vision, and that's okay. Focus on your goals and ignore unnecessary negativity.
Success takes time. Many people quit when they don't see immediate results. Stay persistent, be patient, and understand that every step you take brings you closer to your dream.
Comparing your progress to others can lead to frustration. Everyone has a different journey. Focus on your own growth and celebrate your achievements, no matter how small. Time is your most valuable resource. Wasting time on unimportant activities can delay your success. Prioritize tasks, eliminate distractions, and use time wisely.
Discipline is essential for achieving goals. Without it, motivation fades. Train yourself to be consistent, even when you don't feel like working. Small habits build big results. Success often requires stepping out of your comfort zone. If you never take risks, you limit your potential. Embrace calculated risks and learn from the experience.
Your reason for pursuing a dream should be strong enough to keep you going during tough times. Define your purpose clearly and let it be your driving force.
Your environment influences your success. If you are around negative or unmotivated people, their energy will affect you. Surround yourself with those who inspire and support you.
Success isn't just about work. It's about balance. Neglecting health can lead to burnout. Take care of your body and mind by eating well, exercising, and getting enough rest.
Sometimes plans don't work as expected. Being too rigid can lead to disappointment. Stay flexible, adjust your strategies, and adapt to new situations. Many people try to achieve success alone, but support is crucial. Seek guidance from mentors, ask for help, and learn from those who have already succeeded.
Dreaming is easy, but action is what makes dreams real. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start now. Take small steps daily, and you'll see progress over time.
Failure is not the end. It's part of the journey. By recognizing and overcoming these common mistakes, you can achieve your dreams. Keep learning, stay determined, and believe in yourself. Success is within your reach.
And now, let's dive into the story of the mystery of the abandoned ship, a true story of a crew vanishing at sea.
Throughout history, the ocean has hidden countless mysteries. One of the most baffling is the story of a ship found drifting with no crew aboard. What happened to them? In this podcast, we explore the chilling details of an abandoned vessel and the eerie clues that hint at its lost crew's fate.
It was a calm day when a cargo vessel spotted a ship floating aimlessly in the open sea. The crew hailed it, but there was no response. As they approached, they noticed something strange. There were no signs of life. The ship's name was faded, and it appeared eerily silent.
A small team from the cargo vessel decided to investigate. As they climbed aboard, they expected to find passengers or at least some explanation. Instead, they were met with absolute emptiness. The ship looked as if its crew had vanished in the middle of daily tasks.
The dining area had plates of food left uneaten. Personal belongings were still in the cabins, undisturbed. The lifeboats remained secured in place. There were no signs of struggle or distress. It was as if the crew had disappeared into thin air. The captain's logbook was discovered in his quarters. The last entry was written hastily, mentioning something unusual in the water. The writing seemed rushed, as if the captain had been interrupted. There were no further records after that point.
Investigators initially suspected a sudden storm, but the weather records showed no severe conditions. The sea had been calm for days. Whatever happened on board was not due to natural causes. This deepened the mystery even further.
If pirates had attacked, there would be signs of struggle or missing valuables, but everything was intact. No looting, no gunfire marks, no broken equipment. It was as if the ship had been abandoned willingly, yet there was no reason for it.
Speculation grew. Some believed the crew had been victims of foul play, while others suspected supernatural forces. A few even suggested that the ship had passed through the infamous Bermuda Triangle, though its location didn't match the theory.
If the crew had abandoned ship, they would have taken lifeboats. Yet all the lifeboats remained in place. There was no distress signal recorded. No nearby vessels had reported survivors. It was as if the entire crew had simply ceased to exist. Some sailors who later boarded the ship reported hearing whispers at night. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Was it just the creaking of an aging vessel, or something more sinister? These eerie tales only added to the ship's legend.
Could toxic gases have caused mass hallucinations, leading the crew to jump overboard? Investigators considered the possibility of carbon monoxide poisoning, but no traces were found. The scientific explanations failed to fully account for the mystery.
Some reports suggested that the ship had been carrying a secret cargo, possibly dangerous chemicals or even radioactive material. Could exposure to such substances have led the crew to panic? Yet, no hazardous materials were found.
Another theory emerged. Was the ship involved in secret military experiments? Some believed that classified testing had something to do with the disappearance, but there was no official confirmation or evidence to support this claim.
Stories of haunted ships have existed for centuries. Could the crew have encountered something beyond our understanding? Some claim the ship had a dark past and was cursed, leading to their mysterious fate.
This was not the first case of a ship found without its crew. The Mary Celeste, famously discovered adrift in 1872, remains one of the most well-known maritime mysteries. Could there be a common link between these eerie disappearances?
Despite extensive searches, no trace of the missing crew was ever found. No lifeboats, no wreckage, and no messages in bottles. It was as if they had vanished completely from existence, leaving only speculation behind.
Eventually, the abandoned ship was towed to port. Some believed it should never have been touched, fearing bad luck. Mysteriously, every crew that handled the ship later reported misfortunes, fueling the belief in a curse.
Authorities examined the ship for months but found no solid clues. The case was eventually closed without answers. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to the crew, and the ship's mystery remains unsolved.
Was it a natural disaster, foul play, or something supernatural? Theories continue to emerge, but the truth remains unknown. The sea holds many secrets, and some mysteries may never be solved. What do you think happened to the lost crew?
The story of the abandoned ship reminds us how vast and unpredictable the ocean is. Some mysteries will never have answers, leaving us to wonder. Whether logical or supernatural, the tale remains one of the greatest maritime enigmas of all time. Now, we will talk about the topic, smartphone addiction, and how it affects our lives and minds.
We live in a world where smartphones have become an inseparable part of our daily routines. We use them to communicate, work, entertain ourselves, and even manage our health. But have you ever stopped to think about how much time you actually spend on your phone? More importantly, have you considered the impact of excessive smartphone use on your brain and overall well-being? In this episode, we'll explore the effects of smartphone addiction and how it can shape our behavior, relationships, and mental health.
Let's start by understanding what smartphone addiction really is. It's not just about using your phone frequently. It's about compulsively checking it, feeling anxious when it's not around, and struggling to control your screen time. Many people experience a strong urge to check notifications, scroll through social media, or play mobile games, even when they don't need to. This behavior is reinforced by app developers who design platforms to keep us engaged for as long as possible. The more time we spend on our phones, the more we reinforce these habits. Studies show that excessive smartphone use can change the structure of our brains, particularly in areas related to attention, memory, and impulse control. The constant stimulation from notifications and social media can shorten our attention spans, making it harder to focus on tasks for long periods. Some researchers even compare smartphone addiction to substance addiction, as both activate the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and making us crave more screen time. This cycle can lead to reduced productivity and increased stress levels.
One of the most noticeable effects of smartphone addiction is its impact on our sleep. Many people use their phones right before bed, exposing themselves to blue light that disrupts the body's natural sleep cycle. This light interferes with melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep and affecting sleep quality. Poor sleep can lead to fatigue, irritability, and difficulty concentrating during the day. To improve sleep hygiene, experts recommend putting phones away at least an hour before bedtime and using night mode to reduce blue light exposure.
Smartphone addiction also affects our social interactions. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone kept checking their phone? it's frustrating and can make you feel unimportant. Excessive phone use can weaken face-to-face communication skills, leading to shallow conversations and a lack of emotional connection. Many people prioritize their virtual lives over real-life interactions, which can harm relationships with family and friends. Being present in the moment is essential for building strong and meaningful connections.
Our mental health is deeply connected to our smartphone habits. Studies indicate that excessive social media use can contribute to anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. Constant exposure to unrealistic portrayals of success and beauty can make people feel inadequate or pressured to meet impossible standards. The habit of comparing oneself to others online can lead to negative self-perception, especially among young people. Taking breaks from social media and curating a healthier digital environment can help improve mental well-being. Smartphones have also changed the way we consume information. We are constantly bombarded with news, messages, and updates, making it difficult to focus on one thing at a time. This has led to what experts call continuous partial attention, where our brains are always switching between tasks without fully concentrating on any of them. As a result, we become less efficient at processing information and more prone to distractions. Developing mindful phone habits can help us regain control over our attention and improve productivity.
One major concern is how smartphone addiction affects children and teenagers. Young people today are growing up in a digital world, often spending hours on screens without limits. Excessive screen time can impact brain development, social skills, and academic performance. Many experts suggest that parents set boundaries for screen use, encourage outdoor activities, and engage in real-world interactions to balance digital exposure. Teaching children healthy technology habits early can help prevent addiction in the future.
The workplace is another area where smartphone addiction is causing problems. Many employees struggle with distractions from notifications, social media, and personal messages during work hours. This leads to reduced productivity and increased stress levels. Some companies have introduced no-phone policies during meetings or encourage employees to take digital detox breaks to improve focus and efficiency. By managing phone use wisely, professionals can create a more productive and balanced work environment.
While smartphones provide convenience and connectivity, they also encourage a sedentary lifestyle. Many people spend hours sitting and scrolling through their phones, neglecting physical activity. This lack of movement can lead to health problems such as obesity, poor posture, and eye strain. Simple changes like taking breaks from screens, engaging in physical activities, and setting screen time limits can significantly improve overall health and well-being.
Another serious issue caused by smartphone addiction is its impact on memory and cognitive function. Constant reliance on smartphones for reminders, navigation, and instant answers reduces our ability to retain information and think critically. Studies suggest that excessive smartphone use weakens deep thinking and problem-solving skills because we are less likely to engage in mental effort when answers are readily available. Developing a habit of thinking independently, reading books, and engaging in offline activities can help maintain cognitive health.
One hidden consequence of smartphone addiction is its effect on creativity. Being constantly stimulated by digital content leaves little room for boredom, which is actually essential for creativity. When we allow our minds to wander, we come up with new ideas and solutions. However, excessive phone use limits this process by keeping our brains occupied with endless scrolling. Taking intentional breaks from screens and engaging in activities like writing, painting, or simply daydreaming can enhance creative thinking.
Social media, a major contributor to smartphone addiction, plays a significant role in shaping public opinions and beliefs. Many people get their news primarily from social media platforms, which often present biased or misleading information. This has led to the spread of misinformation and a decline in critical thinking skills. Developing media literacy, learning to evaluate sources and question information, can help people become more informed and less influenced by false narratives.
Smartphone addiction also impacts financial habits. Many people impulsively shop online, influenced by targeted ads and social media promotions. The convenience of mobile shopping apps makes it easy to spend money without careful consideration. This behavior can lead to financial stress and unnecessary debt. Practicing mindful spending, setting budgets, and limiting exposure to online advertisements can help people regain control over their finances and make smarter purchasing decisions.
Digital addiction doesn't just affect individuals, it also has environmental consequences. The demand for smartphones leads to increased electronic waste and energy consumption. Many people upgrade their devices frequently, contributing to pollution and resource depletion. Additionally, the energy used for cloud storage, data centers, and constant internet connectivity has a significant environmental impact. Being mindful of our digital habits, recycling old devices, and using technology more sustainably can help reduce our carbon footprint.
One strategy to overcome smartphone addiction is practicing digital detox. This means taking intentional breaks from screens to reconnect with real life. Some people try phone-free Sundays or set specific hours when they avoid screens. Others use apps that track screen time and set limits. By reducing dependency on smartphones, people can regain control over their time, improve mental clarity, and strengthen real-world relationships. It's all about finding a balance that works for you.
Mindfulness is another powerful tool for managing smartphone use. Practicing mindfulness means being fully present in the moment and aware of your habits. For example, instead of automatically reaching for your phone when you're bored, you can pause and ask yourself why you're doing it. Is it out of habit or necessity? Training your mind to be more intentional about phone use can help break addictive patterns and create a healthier relationship with technology.
Setting boundaries is crucial for reducing smartphone addiction. This includes turning off unnecessary notifications, keeping phones away from the dining table, and designating no-phone zones in the house. Some people find it helpful to use a traditional alarm clock instead of their phone to avoid checking messages first thing in the morning. Simple changes like these can make a big difference in developing healthier digital habits.
Technology itself can be part of the solution. Many smartphones now offer features like focus mode and screen time monitoring to help users manage their digital consumption. There are also apps designed to encourage productivity and limit distractions. While technology can be addictive, it can also be used in a way that supports well-being. The key is to be conscious of how we use our devices and make choices that serve our best interests.
In conclusion, smartphones are powerful tools that offer many benefits, but excessive use can negatively impact our mental health, relationships, productivity, and even our creativity. The good news is that we have control over how we use technology. By setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness, and making small adjustments to our daily habits, we can enjoy the advantages of smartphones without becoming overly dependent on them. Remember, technology should serve us, not control us. Thank you for tuning in to this episode, and we hope you found it insightful.
Now, we will talk about the topic, the escapee from Devil's Island and how he escaped one of the world's most dangerous prisons.
Imagine being trapped on a remote island, surrounded by shark-infested waters and guarded by ruthless officers. This was the terrifying reality of prisoners sent to Devil's Island, a notorious French penal colony. Few ever dreamed of escaping, and even fewer succeeded. But one man defied the odds and pulled off a daring escape that shocked the world. His name was Henri Charrière, also known as Papillon. Join us as we unravel the incredible story of how he managed to flee one of the most brutal prisons in history.
Devil's Island was part of the French Guiana penal system, a place where France sent its most dangerous criminals, or those it simply wanted to forget. The island was a death trap. Prisoners faced disease, starvation, and violent treatment from guards. It was surrounded by deadly waters filled with sharks and strong currents, making escape almost impossible. Anyone who tried to flee was either caught and executed or drowned in the merciless ocean. But Papillon refused to accept this fate. He was determined to regain his freedom, no matter the cost.
Henri Charrière was convicted of murder in 1931, a crime he always insisted he did not commit. Despite his claims of innocence, he was sentenced to life in prison and shipped off to the harsh penal colonies of French Guiana. From the very moment he arrived, he began plotting his escape. He studied the guards, observed the island's geography, and waited for the perfect opportunity. He knew that his chances of survival were slim, but the thought of spending the rest of his life in this hellish place was unbearable.
Papillon's first escape attempt came shortly after his arrival. He and a few other prisoners crafted a raft and tried to sail away under the cover of darkness. However, the sea was unforgiving, and the currents were stronger than they anticipated. After days of drifting, they reached the shores of Colombia, but their freedom was short-lived. Authorities captured them, and Papillon was sent back to prison, his punishment even harsher than before. But instead of breaking his spirit, this failure only made him more determined to succeed.
Despite brutal punishments, including solitary confinement in a pitch-black cell for years, Papillon never lost hope. He spent his time in isolation planning every detail of his next escape. He learned from his past mistakes, knowing that if he wanted to survive, he needed a better strategy. The conditions in his tiny cell were beyond cruel. No sunlight, barely any food, and complete silence. Most men lost their minds in such isolation, but Papillon used it as a time to sharpen his willpower and mental strength.
After serving 2 years in solitary confinement, Papillon was transferred to another part of the prison system. He saw this as an opportunity. He befriended fellow inmates, gathering valuable information about potential escape routes. He realized that timing was everything. He needed the perfect moment when the guards were distracted. Through bribery, secret signals, and sheer patience, he started gathering materials for his escape, knowing that failure could mean death.
One of Papillon's greatest skills was his ability to make alliances. He connected with prisoners who had inside knowledge of the island and its surroundings. Some of them had failed in their own escape attempts, but had valuable advice on what to avoid. With their help, he planned a new escape, one that would take him farther than ever before. He knew that escaping alone was too risky, so he teamed up with a small group of men who were just as desperate for freedom.
In 1944, after years of imprisonment and failed attempts, Papillon made his most daring escape. This time, he had a well-thought-out plan. He and a fellow prisoner built a raft from sacks filled with coconuts, using them as flotation devices. It was a risky move, as the ocean was unpredictable and deadly. But Papillon believed it was his last chance. As night fell, they pushed their makeshift raft into the water and let the strong current carry them away from the island.
The journey across the ocean was brutal. The waves were relentless, and exhaustion quickly set in. They had little food, no navigation tools, and only their instincts to guide them. At times, it felt like the sea would swallow them whole. The biggest fear, however, was the sharks. These waters were infamous for being infested with them, and any mistake could mean a gruesome death. But Papillon held on to hope, convincing himself that he was destined to survive.
After days of battling the sea, Papillon and his companion finally reached the mainland. They arrived on the shores of Venezuela, exhausted but alive. Unlike previous times, this time was different. Venezuelan authorities didn't send him back. Instead, he was granted asylum. It was the moment he had been dreaming of for years. Against all odds, he had escaped one of the most dangerous prisons in history and won his freedom. His nightmare was finally over.
After gaining his freedom, Papillon started a new life in Venezuela. He married, built a career, and left his dark past behind him. But the memories of Devil's Island never faded. He carried the scars, both physical and emotional, of his time in prison. For years, he kept his incredible story to himself, not knowing that one day it would capture the attention of the world.
Years later, Papillon decided to tell his story. He wrote an autobiography detailing his experiences, his struggles, and his incredible escape. The book, simply titled Papillon, was published in 1969 and became an international sensation. People were fascinated by his resilience, his courage, and his ability to outwit one of the most brutal prison systems ever created. His story was a testament to the unbreakable human spirit.
The success of Papillon was overwhelming. Readers around the world were captivated by his story of survival and escape. His book was translated into multiple languages and became a bestseller. But as his fame grew, so did skepticism. Some questioned whether all the events in his book were entirely true. Historians and journalists investigated his claims, and while some details could not be verified, no one could deny the core truth. Henri Charrière had survived one of the deadliest prisons in history and had successfully escaped.
Papillon's story was so incredible that Hollywood took notice. In 1973, a film adaptation starring Steve McQueen as Papillon and Dustin Hoffman as his companion was released. The movie brought his story to an even wider audience and solidified his legacy. Years later, in 2017, another adaptation was made, introducing a new generation to his legendary escape. Despite any doubts about minor details, the essence of his story remained unchanged, a man's relentless fight for freedom against impossible odds.
One of the most debated aspects of Papillon's story was whether he acted alone or had outside help. Some theories suggest that he may have received assistance from sympathetic locals or even corrupt guards who secretly admired his determination. Others believe that his survival in the ocean was almost too incredible to be true. But regardless of how he managed it, the fact remains that he escaped from a prison that was supposed to be inescapable.
Despite the controversy, one thing is undeniable. Papillon's resilience was extraordinary. Most prisoners on Devil's Island accepted their fate, but he refused to give up. His story is not just about escaping prison, it's about the power of the human will. It teaches us that even in the darkest places, hope can survive. He endured years of suffering, betrayals, and failures, yet he never stopped believing that he would one day be free.
Papillon's escape also exposed the horrors of the French penal colony system. After his book and movie gained worldwide attention, pressure mounted on France to acknowledge the brutal conditions in these prisons. Eventually, the penal colony in French Guiana was shut down and Devil's Island was abandoned. Today, it stands as a haunting reminder of a dark chapter in history. Some say that if it weren't for Papillon's story, the world might have forgotten about the suffering that took place there.
As he grew older, Henri Charrière enjoyed the life he had fought so hard to achieve. He traveled, met admirers, and lived peacefully in Venezuela. But he always carried the weight of his past with him. In interviews, he spoke about the importance of never giving up, no matter how hopeless a situation might seem. His message resonated with people far beyond the world of prisoners and criminals. It became a universal story of survival and determination.
In 1973, just 4 years after publishing Papillon, Henri Charrière passed away at the age of 66. His legacy, however, lived on. His book remains one of the most famous prison escape stories ever told, inspiring countless people to believe in the power of the human spirit. Today, visitors to French Guiana can still see the ruins of the prison that once held him, a testament to his unbelievable journey.
Papillon's story is one of the greatest escape tales in history. Whether every detail is true or not, the essence of his journey, his determination, courage, and refusal to accept defeat continues to inspire. His life reminds us that no matter how strong the walls around us may seem, the human will is stronger. Thank you for joining us in this episode. We hope you found this story as fascinating as we did. Stay tuned for more incredible tales of survival, adventure, and human resilience.
Now, we will talk about the topic, emotional alienation and why we feel lonely despite being surrounded by people.
Have you ever felt completely alone, even when surrounded by friends, family, or colleagues? Have you ever scrolled through social media, seeing people's lives full of laughter and connection, yet felt distant and isolated? This feeling is called emotional alienation, a deep sense of disconnection from those around us, even in a crowded world. It's a paradox of modern life. We are more connected than ever through technology, yet loneliness is on the rise. Today, we will explore why emotional alienation happens and how we can overcome it.
Loneliness is not just about being physically alone. Many people assume that if someone has a big social circle, they must feel connected and fulfilled. But the reality is different. True connection isn't measured by the number of people around us, but by the depth of our relationships. Emotional alienation occurs when we feel unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. You can have hundreds of friends online, attend social events, and still feel like no one truly knows who you are. This hidden loneliness is what makes emotional alienation so painful.
One major cause of emotional alienation is the fast-paced nature of modern life. People are busier than ever, constantly occupied with work, responsibilities, and distractions. Conversations have become shorter, interactions more superficial, and deep emotional connections rarer. Many people no longer have the time or energy to form meaningful bonds. As a result, We may feel like we are drifting through life, surrounded by people who barely scratch the surface of our emotions.
Social media plays a major role in emotional alienation. It creates the illusion of connection while often deepening our sense of loneliness. We may have thousands of followers, receive likes and comments, but still feel emotionally empty. This is because social media interactions lack depth. They focus on curated images, brief messages, and public validation rather than genuine emotional support. Many people hesitate to share their true feelings online, fearing judgment or rejection, which only increases their isolation.
Another factor contributing to emotional alienation is the fear of vulnerability. Many people are afraid to express their true emotions, worrying that they will be judged, rejected, or misunderstood. Society often teaches us to hide our struggles and appear strong, even when we are suffering inside. This creates a barrier between us and those around us, making it difficult to form deep connections. True intimacy requires honesty, and without it, loneliness can grow even in the most crowded spaces.
Emotional alienation is also linked to unrealistic expectations of relationships. Movies, social media, and romanticized ideals create the belief that connections should always be exciting, effortless, and full of deep understanding. When real relationships don't match these expectations, people may feel disappointed and distant. They may think, why don't I feel truly connected to my friends or partner? But real relationships require patience, effort, and vulnerability, qualities that take time to develop.
Technology has transformed the way we communicate, but it has also weakened the depth of our interactions. Text messages, voice notes, and quick calls replace deep, face-to-face conversations. People no longer sit together for hours discussing life, dreams, and fears. Instead, conversations are often rushed, distracted, or interrupted by notifications. The result? A growing sense of detachment, where even our closest relationships start to feel distant and unsatisfying.
Emotional alienation is not just a personal issue, it has societal consequences. Studies show that loneliness can lead to mental health issues like depression and anxiety. It can also affect physical health, increasing the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and weakened immune function. Feeling disconnected from others affects our motivation, productivity, and overall happiness. It's not just a passing emotion, it's a serious issue that deserves attention.
One surprising cause of emotional alienation is self-isolation. Sometimes we unknowingly push people away by assuming they won't understand us. We convince ourselves that no one truly cares or that sharing our emotions is pointless. Over time, this belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we isolate ourselves emotionally, the harder it becomes to reconnect. Breaking this cycle requires courage and a willingness to open up, even when it feels difficult.
So, how can we overcome emotional alienation? The first step is to practice deep, meaningful conversations. Instead of just discussing surface-level topics like work or daily routines, try asking deeper questions. How do you really feel? What has been on your mind lately? What are your biggest fears and dreams? Meaningful conversations strengthen bonds and remind us that we are not alone in our emotions.
Another powerful way to combat loneliness is through acts of kindness. Sometimes the best way to feel connected is by making others feel seen and valued. A simple act, like truly listening to someone, offering help, or expressing appreciation, can create emotional warmth. Connection is a two-way street. When we show care for others, we often receive it in return.
Practicing mindfulness can also help reduce emotional alienation. Often we feel disconnected because our minds are too focused on the past or future. Mindfulness helps us be present in the moment, fully experiencing conversations, emotions, and human interactions. By paying full attention to the people around us, we can build deeper connections and break free from the cycle of emotional detachment.
Setting boundaries in digital communication is another important step. While technology connects us, overuse can make relationships feel artificial. Try setting tech-free times where you focus entirely on in-person interactions. Have dinner without checking your phone. Spend time with loved ones without distractions. These small changes can make a big difference in how connected you feel to the people around you.
Building self-awareness is also key to overcoming emotional alienation. Take time to reflect on your emotional needs and what truly makes you feel connected. Are there specific people who uplift you? Are there habits that make you feel disconnected? Understanding these patterns helps you make intentional choices about your relationships and social environment.
Another strategy is to engage in activities that promote real human connection. Joining community groups, volunteering, or attending social events where people share common interests can create a sense of belonging. Passive socializing, like scrolling through social media, often deepens loneliness. Active engagement in real-life activities builds meaningful relationships.
Learning to embrace vulnerability is crucial. Being open about our feelings allows deeper connections to form. It's okay to admit when we feel lonely, anxious, or disconnected. Often, when we share our struggles, others open up in return, creating a bond built on mutual understanding and trust.
Spending quality time with close friends and family is one of the most effective ways to combat emotional alienation. Quality matters more than quantity. One deep conversation can be more fulfilling than hours of superficial interactions. Prioritize meaningful moments over casual interactions.
If emotional alienation persists, seeking professional help can be beneficial. Therapists can provide guidance on rebuilding connections and understanding emotional barriers. There is no shame in needing support. Sometimes an outside perspective is exactly what we need.
Healing from emotional alienation takes time. It requires patience, effort, and self-compassion. Small steps, having a heartfelt conversation, setting social goals, or practicing gratitude can gradually lead to a greater sense of connection.
In the end, emotional alienation is not a permanent state. It is a challenge that can be overcome with intentional effort. By nurturing deep relationships, embracing vulnerability, and prioritizing genuine human connection, we can break free from loneliness and rediscover the warmth of real companionship. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time. Now we will talk about the topic, the doctor who saved the world and how an unknown scientist helped save millions of lives without getting the fame he deserved.
Throughout history, some individuals have changed the world, yet their names remain unknown to most people. One such person is Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian physician whose discovery saved millions of lives but was ignored during his lifetime. His story is both inspiring and tragic, a tale of scientific brilliance, human stubbornness, and a relentless fight for truth. His contribution to medicine was simple yet groundbreaking: hand washing. Today, we take it for granted, but in the 19th century, the idea that washing hands could prevent disease was revolutionary.
Born in 1818 in Budapest, Hungary, Ignaz Semmelweis studied medicine at the University of Vienna. He was passionate about understanding disease and improving patient care. In the mid-19th century, hospitals were dangerous places. Childbed fever, a deadly infection that killed many mothers after childbirth, was common in maternity wards. Doctors did not understand what caused it, and many accepted these deaths as unavoidable. But Semmelweis was different. He refused to accept that so many women had to die without explanation.
In 1846, Semmelweis started working at the Vienna General Hospital, where he noticed a disturbing pattern. The hospital had two maternity wards, one run by doctors and medical students, and another run by midwives. Strangely, the death rate from childbed fever was much higher in the ward run by doctors. Women in the midwives' ward had a much lower risk of dying. Semmelweis was determined to find out why, and what he discovered would change the future of medicine.
Semmelweis carefully observed the doctors' routines and found a shocking difference between them and the midwives. Doctors often performed autopsies on deceased patients before assisting women in childbirth, without washing their hands. Midwives, on the other hand, did not conduct autopsies. Semmelweis hypothesized that doctors were transferring deadly particles from corpses to pregnant women. Though germs had not yet been discovered, he realized that something invisible was spreading disease.
To test his theory, Semmelweis ordered all doctors and medical students to wash their hands with a chlorine solution before examining pregnant women. The results were astonishing. Within months, the death rate in the doctor's maternity ward dropped dramatically, from over 18% to less than 2%. It was clear hand washing was saving lives. He had discovered a simple but powerful method to prevent infection, something that could have spared thousands of lives if applied widely.
One would expect that such a discovery would be celebrated and adopted immediately. However, Semmelweis faced harsh resistance. The medical community was not ready to accept the idea that doctors themselves were responsible for spreading disease. Many physicians were offended by the suggestion that they were unknowingly killing their patients. They ridiculed Semmelweis and dismissed his findings, refusing to change their habits. His discovery, which could have saved countless lives, was ignored.
Semmelweis was frustrated by the rejection. He tried publishing his findings and urging hospitals to adopt hand washing, but most doctors refused to listen. At that time, medicine was based on tradition rather than scientific evidence, and the idea that invisible particles could cause disease seemed absurd. Instead of accepting his research, many hospitals continued their dangerous practices, and thousands of mothers continued to die unnecessarily. Desperate to convince the medical community, Semmelweis became more aggressive in his arguments. He attacked his critics and publicly shamed doctors who refused to wash their hands. Unfortunately, this approach backfired. Instead of gaining supporters, he alienated himself from the medical world. His colleagues saw him as arrogant and unstable. In 1850, he lost his position at the Vienna General Hospital and returned to Hungary, where he continued his work, but with little success.
Over the years, Semmelweis became increasingly frustrated and obsessed with proving he was right. He wrote letters attacking doctors for causing deaths, calling them murderers. His mental health began to deteriorate, and his behavior became erratic. In 1865, his condition worsened, and his colleagues, believing he was insane, sent him to an asylum. Tragically, within 2 weeks of being admitted, Semmelweis died after being beaten by the guards. He was only 47 years old.
Semmelweis died without seeing his work recognized, but history would eventually prove him right. A few years after his death, Louis Pasteur's germ theory confirmed that microscopic organisms cause disease. Joseph Lister, a British surgeon, later built upon Semmelweis's ideas, promoting antiseptic surgery and hand hygiene. Slowly, the medical community began to accept what Semmelweis had discovered decades earlier. But by then, he was gone, never witnessing the impact of his revolutionary work.
Today, Semmelweis is considered a pioneer of infection control. His insistence on hand hygiene laid the foundation for modern antiseptic techniques. Hospitals around the world now follow strict hand-washing protocols, a practice that has saved countless lives. His name is honored in medical history, and the Semmelweis reflex is a term used to describe the human tendency to reject new ideas that challenge established beliefs.
Despite his tragic fate, Semmelweis's legacy lives on. His story is a powerful reminder of the resistance that groundbreaking discoveries often face. Many great minds in history have been ridiculed before being proven right. Science advances by challenging old ideas, but progress is often slow and painful. The world eventually recognized Semmelweis's genius, but only after decades of unnecessary suffering.
The lesson from Semmelweis's story is clear. Just because an idea is unpopular doesn't mean it's wrong. Throughout history, many scientists and visionaries have faced rejection before their discoveries were accepted. It takes courage to stand by the truth, even when the world refuses to listen. Semmelweis may not have lived to see his work appreciated, but his contribution to medicine remains invaluable.
Even today, we see resistance to scientific discoveries. Whether it's vaccines, climate change, or new medical practices, many people hesitate to accept change. Semmelweis's story teaches us the importance of being open to new ideas and following evidence, even when it challenges long-held beliefs. Science moves forward not by holding on to tradition, but by questioning, testing, and embracing new knowledge.
In hospitals, schools, and homes, the simple act of washing hands has become a routine habit, but few people know the tragic story behind this life-saving practice. Next time you wash your hands, remember Ignaz Semmelweis, the man who discovered its importance, fought for his idea, and paid the ultimate price for the truth.
Semmelweis's story is not just about medicine, it's about human nature. It highlights how people resist change even when the evidence is clear. It shows the cost of scientific progress and the sacrifices made by those who dare to challenge the norm. His life was filled with struggle, but his work has saved millions.
Though forgotten in his time, Semmelweis's name now stands alongside the greatest medical pioneers. His discovery was simple, yet it transformed the world. He may not have received fame during his life, but his impact is felt every day in hospitals and homes worldwide.
So, as we continue to fight diseases and improve medical practices, let's honor those like Semmelweis, scientists who, despite rejection and hardship, dedicate their lives to saving others. Their struggles remind us that progress often comes at a cost, and many pioneers never get to see the full impact of their work. Yet without them, the world would not be what it is today. Every medical breakthrough, every scientific advancement, and every technological leap is built on the perseverance of those who refuse to give up, even when the world turned its back on them.
History is full of unsung heroes whose contributions shape our lives in ways we rarely acknowledge. From the scientists who developed vaccines to those who revolutionized communication and technology, many brilliant minds have been forgotten by the general public. Their discoveries save lives, improve societies, and push humanity forward, yet they remain in the shadows. It is our responsibility to recognize and appreciate these individuals. Their sacrifices should not be lost to time, and their stories should serve as inspiration for future generations who dare to challenge the status quo.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. Semmelweis's story is just one of many that remind us of the power of persistence, the necessity of challenging established beliefs, and the importance of scientific progress. The world needs more people willing to stand by the truth, even in the face of opposition. So stay curious, question everything, and never stop seeking the truth. If we continue to honor and learn from the past, we can create a future where great ideas are recognized, celebrated, and applied for the betterment of all. See you in the next episode.